Welcome back to chapter 4. Let's continue with the upper handguard and let's create a cylinder here. Make sure it has no Y rotation and let's give it the right radius here. Let's try with 1.6 in my case, and I'm just gonna position it here in the center again. Put it to 0 on the X coordinates and position it so that we have it lining up here with our reference image. Just drag these vertices all the way here to the right, and then I'm just giving it a proper scale here because it's actually coming down. Gonna extrude some faces out here on the front part so that we already have that cap there, that metal cap. And I'm going to delete these faces here in the middle of it. Keep the faces there on the front though, and just drag some more geometry down here all the way to where that wood ends. I will add another edge line here in those two faces here. Create another edge. Bring it all the way to the left with the edge constraint, and then without edge constraint drag it out so that on the left side we already have that metal cap that is straight. And just reposition some of these vertices here. And I'll do the same thing here on the right side. Bring that edge all the way here to that other edge with edge constraint. Push it back a bit to the left. And then with FDD2 modifier, I'm just gonna bring it up a little bit here so that it looks like the wood has actually been pressed in there and it's sticking out a bit. Next, I'm going to use the cut tool to follow that shape that we see here on the reference. Just delete those faces. And I'm gonna use our slice plane here to make a edge connection right there in the middle. Connect some of these vertices. And as the next thing, I'm going to collapse some of these edges that we have here and target weld them all the way there to the bottom. Gonna have like an edge connection here through the center so that again we can make use here of our symmetry modifier. And let's straighten these vertices here at the bottom. Symmetry that. Gray material, and let's compare it with the other handguard. And in fact, I want to use our FDD2 modifier here on it. Take these control points, go over to top perspective and scale it so that it lines up here with our upper handguard. And while we're still working here on the FDD2 modifier, I'm also bringing it up a bit here. Back to our upper handguard. Let's work a bit more here on that metal capping. And for that, I just decided that it's better to actually detach it, have these as separate elements, and that enables us to really have wood as wood and everything else is metal pretty much. Let's take this upper handguard here, and what I just did was to cap everything. And now it's just a matter to take those vertices and connect them so that our capping gets a proper edge flow here. I'm gonna have this ring selection here in the center, add another edge connection to it, which is now perfectly centered at 0. And I'm gonna take this edge connection and chamfer it so that now we can just delete that edge loop, take these edges and drag them up here on the Z-axis. I'm gonna just do it here on one side so that again we can use our symmetry modifier. Delete it here on the right side. Also, let's get rid of backface cal so that we see better what's happening. And I'm already starting here to just clean it up a bit. Optimize this edge flow there on the inside. And now with these two edges here, I'm gonna bring it out to 0. So that later we can have the barrel in there. Cap it here at the end. And most importantly here at the center again. Also cap it here at the front, connect some vertices, and that's pretty much the shape here for the upper handguard already. And let's do the same thing here at the bottom for the handguard. Taking that edge loop here in the center, also chamfer it. And I want to chamfer it so that it lines up there with our rear side. Delete these edges or faces. Also turn the back face cowl on. Isolation mode always helps it to see what we're doing, and bring these edges down here on the Z-axis, align them and just clean it up. Collapse some of these edges here. And that didn't work quite well, so I'm gonna instead take this edge here and collapse it. We don't want to have any overlap there. And this vertex, I'm gonna target weld it all the way there. And with these two edges, I'm gonna bring it out here to 0x. Use our symmetry modifier. And that looks pretty good for the moment. I'm gonna continue here with our actual metal caps. Take that thing, border mode, and cap the empty space. And of course, make sure we have the center here connected. Same thing for this one, but in that case, I'm just gonna bridge it. Cap that here at the bottom and cap it as well here. Make some edge connections so that we have it ready for our symmetry modifier. And the same thing over here. Gonna use bridging here. Also on the other side. And then some border mode and cap. And actually I want to bring that down a bit, like I see it there on the reference image. Next, I want to go back to our rear side. I'm still not 100% happy here with the size of it, so I'm gonna take these three elements here in isolation mode, use our FDD4 modifier, take these inner control points and scale it a bit to the outside here on the x-axis so that we get it overall a little thicker, and I'm just gonna collapse it. Collapse 2. And now I take these here individually, the rear side itself, take these vertices, deselect the ones that we have there that we don't want to transform, and now just with the scale on the x-axis, bring that back in a bit. So now we have a little bit more beef there, you could call it. Suits it better. And next I will go back here to our upper handguard and do some more transformation work here as well. First of all, I'm gonna bring it closer to the handguard at the bottom and do the same thing here to these metal caps as seen here on that reference image. And next I'm gonna take the whole thing here with our FDD2 modifier so that our metal cap gets a bit of an extra width here. It should be pretty much the same as the one at the bottom, and therefore it's necessary to shorten the wood a little bit. And next I'm gonna take that here, make an edge loop, and same principle as earlier, I'm gonna drag it in edge constraint all the way to the left, and then just push it out a bit so that the wood kind of pops out there where we have this metal capping, and it looks like it's really been pressed in there. Make some vertex connections here. And also I want to add a cylinder here in between the rear side and that metal cap. So let me bring it down to a width that matches the rear side pretty much exactly. It should be a little smaller than that so that it doesn't pop out on the sides. But other than that, we can really just fill it here with the maximum radius that we can have on it. So somewhere around here should be perfect for it. And on a second thought, in order to position that into the right place there, I'm gonna actually take that piece and shift it over here on the x-axis to where we have that gas cylinder block element. And I'm gonna align it here based on our reference image, make sure it's perfectly centered and doesn't have a Y rotation on it. And then I'm just gonna take it as a copy and put it back into place here where we want it to be. So now we really have a continuation of that piece, and we can just continue here by shaping the metal cap with it. Gonna use the flow connect to make it nice and round, and another one here. And then it's just a matter of making that bottom straight here. Just gonna delete these faces, take these edges, straighten them, and drag it down a bit, and then just give it a cap. So next I want to take all these elements that we have here, our hand guards and these metal caps, together with our reference image here, and put it into the isolation mode, just so that we can focus on really only the elements that we want to be doing some work with. Gonna do some more repositioning here on that metal cap. And most importantly, I'm gonna take these three pieces and use our FDD free modifier to bring it up a bit. Gonna use here these control points at the bottom and then just collapse two. And I want to select the two elements that we have here at the bottom as well, the handguard and the metal cap, and just do the same thing here also with our FDD free modifier. Bring it up a bit and collapse it. And same thing here once more. I'm gonna take these two elements here, handguard and that front metal cap, and just use our FDD free modifier to bring it down a bit there. So next, let me go out of the isolation mode, and I want to merge that element already to our metal cap, because that is really welded together there, as we can see here on that reference image. And for that, I'm gonna make use of our Boolean operation. First of all, let me put some edge loop here in place to support that a bit more. And now I'm gonna take that face there at the bottom, make sure we are not in edge constraint mode, and scale it up. Just some global scale. Gonna take another edge loop here and bring it down a bit so that we have that curve there. Let me also pop that out a bit here on that actual element itself, the metal cap. Just inset and push it on the x-axis. And I'm gonna get rid here of these faces so that we can take it in border mode and straighten it horizontally and then cap it again. Reposition that a little bit more here, and then just over to compound objects, Pro Boolean. And as always, remove only invisible, and then as a union, I'm gonna start picking here, which is actually only one action. And that's pretty much it. So I'm just gonna connect these vertices here and make sure that we have some good edge flow there. Let me make a connection here as well in the center so that again we can use our symmetry modifier. And now I'm just gonna give it the auto smooth here and then some individual smoothing group there around that edge. And let me select that bottom handguard again. Gonna take these faces that we have here on the top and behind it, and then with the FDD2 modifier, I'm gonna bring it in here a little bit on the x-axis, or probably I'm gonna bring it out is the better word for it. so that it actually lines up there with our rear side and it's not somehow intersecting. Gonna get rid here of these edge loops that we actually don't need. And also I want to round it up here a bit more. So for that, as usual, I'm gonna do it with a chamfer. Let me just do that again here. Double chamfer. And before we continue working on our barrel finally, let me just do a bit more work here on that thing. First of all, I'm gonna use the bridge mode to get some geometry in here where it was empty before. And I'm just gonna do it here on that side so that we use the symmetry later. And I wanna auto smooth everything here with a 45-degree angle. Take these three faces that we just chamfered and give them also a smoothing group. Delete the right side, take these faces here and hit the auto smooth button, and then Control I that selection and also auto smooth it with a 45-degree angle. Just make sure that this chamfered edge there has one unique smoothing group as well. And that should do it here for the moment for our smoothing groups on that element. Just gonna get rid here of some of these edges, or maybe connect them better. I'm gonna take that vertex here and connect it with this one. And also do some bridging here so that we have that perfectly closed off. And let me see what it looks like with our chamfer modifier applied to it. Oops, and I just hit the mouse wheel by accident. Let's put it to unsmooth edges again. And now we see where the chamfer goes exactly along our smoothing groups. And with Turbo Smooth on top, it should then look something like that here, which is exactly what we see on the reference image. Let me add also gray material here to that element that we have created earlier. And other than that, I think it's time to start working on our barrel element. So I'm gonna take this piece that we already started working on and position it so that we have the proper geometry in place for it. Gonna use the inset here on it after I collapse the symmetry modifier on it, and then just extrude some more geometry out here, all the way here to where that thing ends. Gonna add another edge loop here. And I'm gonna make a copy here of these elements, take the faces and just press shift, and you can just copy it straight from the face selection. And already position it also here at the bottom so that we have some geometry going there. And we don't need these vertices all the way to there, so I'm gonna bring it in a bit here. And also I want to give that here an inset, extrude some more geometry out, position it a bit more, and then really just take the whole thing and drag it all the way through here to where our front side ends basically. Or let's take it all the way here with our muzzle brake as well. And in the center of that barrel, I'm gonna add another edge loop, chamfer it, and already put in place some of these elements that later we have to extrude out. For now, I'm just concerned to just have these edge loops in place already. And also I want to already add that little element that we have here at the bottom. So I'm gonna use a cylinder, 18 sides should be enough. Rotate it around, put it into place, and then just bring the height all the way up to where it ends, under the front side basically. Gonna zoom in here on the front of that thing, bring it out a bit more and have a quick look at the reference image. It actually goes all the way under that front side, so I'm gonna have it somewhere here, and then we'll just go back to it later. Just make it gray as well. And now I want to be doing some work here on that element first of all. And for that, I will switch over to left orthographic view here on it. Take these faces, detach them so that it's easier to work with. And as so often, I will continue by adding an edge loop here. Position it to where these bevel elements end. And now it really matters that we had that cylinder put to 24 sides earlier, because I'm gonna take one of these segments here, 6 polygons in total, or 6 faces, and I'm gonna use our bevel for it to bring it in. So I'm just gonna do that work once here, and then we're just gonna copy it over to all the other sides. So first of all, let me get these bevel parameters correct here. Push it in a bit. And I'm gonna take these edges here individually and drag them even more in here on the x-axis. Pull these out here a bit to the left so that we already have a bit of that round shape there. And the same here on that side, just to the other side. And then it's just a matter of adding some more flow connect here to make it nice and curved. And the same here on that side with these edges. Flow connect. And I will use the slice plane to add another support edge here. Just give it a slice and do some vertex connection here so that it's properly welded together there. And now what we can do with that is, first of all, delete the right side. Select these 3 segments here, press Ctrl I, and on a second thought we can really delete everything, just leaving that segment, and our pivot point is still in the center of that cylinder. And now click preview here on the array mode and copy it 6 times over, 60 degrees on the y-axis, while being in the front orthographic view. And that gives us pretty much that element already all modeled and done. I'm gonna select these 6 elements, switch over here to collapse, and collapse it all down to one mesh, convert it to an editable poly, press Ctrl A so that we have all vertices selected, and weld it with a minimal threshold of 0.01. And I'm gonna take that edge and drag it out a bit more here. Have a quick look around and attach this back together here to that metal cap. Gonna take these birds and also weld them together, 0.01 as always. The safe welding parameter. And next I'm gonna take that piece here, which at the moment is still a separate element, and I also want to keep it that way. So I'm gonna cap it here. Now I'm gonna give it the auto smooth and just reapply some smoothing groups here around these edges. And I want to have a smoothing group there as well. And everything else is really one smoothing group, these beveled segments, so that it's nice and smooth once we apply our chamfer modifier here. Let's see what it looks like. And that looks exactly like our reference image. The only problem is that we have a bit of a weird distortion here, and the easiest way to fix that is just adding another edge loop there. Bring it over to the right side, and now it looks fine. Let me just disable the turbo smooth and the chamfer on it, and let's continue here with that piece. Gonna make a ring selection on that element, convert it to vertex, and just scale it up a bit so it's a little bit bigger. Gonna align it vertically so everything's flat there when you look at it from the side. And then just with our metal cap piece selected, pro-boolean, and our usual action here with the remove only invisible. I'm gonna use our cut tool here, cut another edge all the way up there, take that vertex, copy it on the x coordinates and paste it onto that vertex here on the top. Now I'm gonna delete that face, take these three faces, delete them as well, select these edges that we have in the open places and drag them up here. Drag some fresh geometry out and then snap it back onto that vertex, weld it together and do some more target welding here so that this is some clean geometry. And then as usual, I'm just gonna take it, delete the right side, use our symmetry modifier, and that gives us a perfect shape here that we want to have on that thing. Let me select these three edges, add an edge connection there, and let's continue to work on that hook that comes out there. So I'm gonna extrude these faces out here, drag it out a bit on the x-axis, and then select both faces here, use the inset to bring it in, and then just delete them. And now I'm going to bridge these faces together here, select these edges and bridge it. Same over here. Add another edge connection there, bring it a bit to the left, and then just bring the whole element down a bit here. And also I'm gonna make it nice and round here, so I'm gonna give it a chamfer. And I wanna press backspace here on these edges that otherwise would produce some extra geometry that we have to clean up later once we are chamfering these corners here. So let me just take these edges, press backspace. I know it looks weird at the moment, but worry not. It's gonna be all good once we connect it back together. So I'm gonna make a selection here for these edges, and also I want to target weld these here back on. So back to that edge selection, I'm now gonna make a double chamfer here on that geometry. So here's chamfer number 1, and here's chamfer number 2, and that is round enough for that kind of element that we want to have there. And now by cleaning it up here with some vertex connection, we get rid of that strange overlap that we have there. Some connection also over here. Quick look around. Gonna take these verts and push it back in a little bit here. Bring it a little bit more to the barrel. And take these verts and also bring them a little bit more down. Gonna add another edge there and also make it a little bit rounder. And just some more connecting vertices together to have a good edge flow there. And it actually is also round there at the bottom, which at the moment it is not. So what I'm gonna do is take these edges here, these two, add an edge connection, and then just drag these verts all the way up so that we already have a bit of that curve there. And also I'm gonna chamfer that edge here once more, and that already gives us this curve that we wanna have. So again then, it's just a matter of making vertex connection. And I'm gonna get rid here of these edges, backspace, and connect that here in a different way up to these verts. And there's still a little bit of overlap. So I'm gonna connect it over here, and now we got rid of it. And as a next thing, I'm gonna select these two front faces here, convert it to an edge selection, and just deselect the edges that I don't wanna have. So that we're only left with these ones here, that I'm gonna give an extra chamfer so that it looks like it has been properly welded onto that. So let me continue with some vertex connections here as well. Gonna get rid of that edge here and just connect this vertex there. Gonna press backspace on these edges. And I'm also gonna press backspace on these, just get rid of them. And same for these verts there that I just deleted. So instead I'm gonna have this connection here. And on a second thought, I'm just gonna get rid of this entire edge loop there in the center and instead connect it like that here. I'm also gonna get rid of that edge there because we don't use the symmetry modifier on that anymore, since we have that hook element here on that right side. So we can basically already collapse it and just get rid of the edges that we don't need, which is what we were just doing. And as a next thing, I'm gonna add that floater element here to it. So as usual, I'm gonna have a cylinder for it. Drag it over here to the right side. Select the front face, Ctrl-I, inverse selection, and just delete everything, just leaving us here with that front face. And now it's just a matter of positioning it correctly and using our inset to again get some more geometry out of it. And that's pretty much the element here that we can use for that floater. And let me just auto smooth it and then give that inner segment another smoothing group. And I'm just gonna copy over here the turbo smooth and the chamfer from that element after I also positioned it correctly. And while I'm at it, I'm also gonna drag that here back into place. Earlier when we were scaling the rear side a bit, I forgot to adjust that properly. So now copy turbo smooth and chamfer and just paste it here back onto that element. And looking at it, I may want to scale the inner face a little bit bigger around here. And also I want to decrease the amount a little bit of our actual crease so that it's looking a little bit more hard-edged. Gonna copy that element over here to the other side, rotate it around 180 degrees and put it into place here. Left orthographic view, and I will then add another element to it, which we can see here on that reference image. And I will do that again with a cylinder. Drag it here so that it's pretty much in the center of that floater element. And we don't need to have 5 height segments on it. So we'll bring it down to 2 so that we are left with 1 edge loop there. Collapse it to an editable poly, and I will just select these faces here pretty much on the side, the left side, and then just extrude that geometry out here. Scale it up a bit. And obviously we don't need it to be that long, so I'm just gonna scale it back into place and align it vertically. And I'm gonna delete these faces there that we don't need. And I'm also gonna delete these edges that we also don't need there. Backspace, and also I'm gonna backspace these vertices there. And same here on that side. We don't need to have that many edges. That just adds to our poly count. Let me already do some vertex connection here on the back side of it. And now I'm gonna take these edges here, or these faces, well, it's just one face really, and drag it to the left side. So that's pretty much our shape right there. Just gonna make it a little bit more hard edged. And other than that, that's it. I'm gonna take that floater element that we already copied twice, and I'm gonna copy it a third time so that we can position it here into place where we also want to have a little bit of depth where that little cylindrical element sticks out. Put it into place. And let me add another chamfer segment here as well to that element. Drag it out a bit. And let's see what it looks like with our Turbo Smooth and chamfer. Maybe make it a little smoother. And now it's time to work on that element here. So what I'm gonna do is take that piece that we have here, auto smooth it, and just add another edge loop, one here on the left and another one. And what I want to do with that thing is drag these verts so that they are connected there and weld them together, leaving us only with these edges here on the top, which I'm gonna flatten while being in the vertex mode. And now I'm also gonna flatten these two faces, bring them up a bit. And after I made these vertex connections here, I'm gonna give these faces one smoothing group as well as these here, which pretty much already is the top shape for that element. And since we like to work with the symmetry modifier, I'm gonna just delete the right side and go ahead here with some more edge connections. Let's see what it looks like here with our symmetry. Gonna select these faces, use our symmetry modifier, and now I'm gonna work here with our FDD on just the sides to drag it back to the left side. So in that case, I just selected all the control points to bring it properly back into place. And now I'm just gonna continue working here on that shape. Add another FDD modifier, FDD4, and take these control points here to further work out that shape that we see there on the reference image. So once we have that in place, I'm gonna collapse to these FDD modifiers, just leaving the symmetry modifier on it. And on that barrel element down here, I'm then just gonna extrude it out here in the local mode, add a little bit of extra space there, and get some more geometry out of that barrel that we now can use here with those 4 top faces to connect back to that piece that we just worked on. So I'm gonna have the extrude put to 0 and then just drag it out here on the Z axis. Drag it out a little bit at least and align it horizontally so that it's all flat. Gonna make an edge connection here and then do the same thing. grab these faces at the bottom, extrude them out to 0, and then just go over here to our z-axis and drag it down. And I'm gonna delete that extra face that we have because it's basically split geometry. Let me put backface color on so that we see better what's happening. And I'm gonna just grow that selection here and detach it so that we only work with these two pieces that we really want to work with. Gonna take it into the isolation mode here with our reference image and go back here to that top part. Take these faces, bring them down, and also align them horizontally. And then it's just a matter of positioning it correctly before we weld it onto that piece there at the bottom. So I'm gonna extrude some more geometry out here. Gonna snap these vertices individually here to the proper verts on the bottom. And the same thing here at the back. Some snapping. And this here is still too low poly, so I'm gonna add another edge loop there. And just position it so that it already has a bit of a curve there. Another one here. And also another one here as well, so it's really nice and curved there, that element. And let's also do the same thing here on the right side. Add some edge loop and just drag it until it's nice and curved. And some more over here. And now I'm just going to take the whole thing, the upper element, attach it to the one at the bottom. And let's not forget that we have these faces here in the middle that we need to delete. So now we can weld it, 0.01. And just get rid of some of these edges that we actually don't need to have there. Same as here on the back side. Control backspace to get rid of them. And I'm also gonna collapse some of these edges here that are not really needed and just add to our poly count. And also I'm gonna collapse these edges, and then it's just a matter of connecting the vertices, cleaning it up a bit there. Same as here on that side. And I'm gonna just take these faces here, all of them, and use our FDD4 modifier to give it a bit of a nicer curve here. So with these control points there on the side, I'm just gonna drag it in here on the x-axis. And that gives it a bit more of a nicer shape. Just gonna align these edges here while being an edge constraint so that they're really horizontally aligned there. And I will just add another edge here, make it even more curvier there at the back. And let me already copy the chamfer and the turbo smooth here from our barrel element so that we can apply it here to that piece. But first I want to take these faces and give them an inset so that we have some extra geometry there just as a support. That suits it a little better there. And I'm gonna take these two edges here on both sides and give them a bit of a curve there just by chamfering it, so that it's not entirely hard edge there at that segment. And let me just target weld these vertices here into place. And now I'm just gonna give everything an auto smooth here with an angle of 27. And let's paste our chamfer and turbo smooth on top. And that looks pretty good. So we can definitely work with that. I'm just gonna cap it here at the back. And get rid of these center edges here on the top, which we don't need. Same as these two. And other than that, we can definitely leave it like that for the moment. However, we are not quite done yet with it. As seen on that reference image, we have some work left here at the bottom. And for that, I'm gonna take these 4 faces, extrude them out, align them horizontally and drag them back into place here. And I'm gonna add another edge loop as usual, bring it up here, add another edge loop, and position it so that we already have them in place where we see them there on our reference image. It will become more clear in just a moment. Let me just detach everything here. Like this whole piece that we're working on for the time being. I'm just gonna detach it, which makes it easier. And I'm gonna make an edge selection here for these two, convert it to a vertex selection, and then while being in the edge constraint mode, drag it out here on the x-axis. Let me straighten these here as well, I forgot that earlier. And let me add some more edges now. I'm gonna chamfer this one. And now we can switch over to our face mode and take out some of these faces that we don't want to have. And that pretty much leaves us then with that shape that we just have to bridge back together. And I also forgot to align this one here, so let me just do that now. So now what I'm going to do here is take these edges and drag them out, snap them here to these verts, and then just take these two and bridge it. And some more work left here on that thing. And as always, I'm just going to delete the right side so that we can work with our symmetry modifier. But in that case, I already want to collapse it right away so that we are left with that shape here that we can now cap, border mode and cap. And then we connect these vertices here back together, giving us exactly the kind of shape that we see on the reference image. And I want to press backspace here on these edges. Can already clean it up a bit. And as the next thing, I'm going to take these two edges, drag them on the y-axis to our left direction, so that we have a bit of this curve that we see here on that reference image. I'm going to chamfer it some more. And instead of giving it a double chamfer, I'm going to use the flow connect here in the middle to make it even more curved. And let me attach this piece back on the other piece so that it's all one element here. And as usual, also target weld it. And still a little bit of work left here on it. I'm going to take these edges, control backspace, and make some vertex connections here. Create some edges in between. Gonna get rid of that entire edge loop here, same as this one. And also we don't need these edges here, so backspace. And some more vertex connections. I'm gonna get rid here of that center edge. Same as these ones here, don't really need them, they just add to our poly count. And quick look around, also gonna connect these vertices here on both sides. And backspace here on that one, which was just breaking our smoothing group there, so I was just reassigning that at the bottom. And let's have a look. That seems to be working. So I'm gonna take that element again, floater, and copy it over here to that element where that little barrel piece would come out. And let me just take these faces, convert them to a vertex selection, together with the bottom parts, and scale them out a bit more, so that this floater actually has some space there. Just a little bit more of optimization and cleanup here. And now I also want to have that piece scaled down a bit. Now it actually fits. Gonna scale it up a bit here in the inside to get a bit of a harsher angle on it, and then just copy it over to the other side and give it a 180-degree rotation so that we have this on both sides. And we can just copy it once more here and scale it down here on that piece where we also have this kind of element there. In fact, it's actually a bit of a different element, so I'm gonna just adjust it a little bit more here, make it all nice and round, add some edge segments, and just position it here so that it really touches base there, and also copy it over here to that side. Again, it's important to look at the reference images, which I have here on the right side of my monitor, and I'm gonna take it to the other side, rotate it around 180 degree, and also position one of these pieces here at the very center, 0x, and bring it up here. And let me take that piece that we worked on here and attach it back onto our barrel. Control A in vertex mode and weld it with a threshold of 0.01. And let me see what it looks like here with our chamfer and turbo smooth. And that reveals that we have some strange pinching going on there. So what I'm gonna do is, with backspace, just take away some of these edges that we have here, like that one. And now it looks good. On that side, we also still have some issues. So I'm just gonna backspace that edge and these ones here as well. And now it looks really good, so no pinching. And the same thing applies to these two edges. Taking them away will also make it a little nicer looking there. And as a next thing, I want to scale down our front barrel piece here by 2%. So I'm gonna right click the scale button and give it 98% here on the offset. Now I'm just gonna copy that Y coordinate from that edge here and paste it onto that edge loop so that it jumps back to where we want it. I had a look at the reference images and the barrel actually tapers down to the front, and that's why I also want to take these three edges here and also do the same thing. In that case, I'm gonna scale them down by 4%. So 96% is what I entered into that scale box there. And now I'm just gonna take that element here and start working on that shape here of our front side. So let's switch over to extrude. And while being in local normal mode, let's just bring it down here to a reasonable amount. Somewhere around here looks fine. And next I'm gonna take 6 of these upper faces, put our extrusion back to 0 and then just drag out here on the z-axis the geometry that will then be our block out for the front side. Note how I aligned it as usual at the top, and I'm going to take that edge loop here, bring it all the way down while being an edge constraint, and next I'm just going to take that whole block here as a vertex selection and scale it a little bit to the inside here on the x-axis. So now I'm going to take that edge loop here and delete these edges here on the front and on the back, but leave them on the side. So that already gives us a little bit of that extra chamfer there at the bottom, where it blends into the barrel. And I will continue here with a cylinder, 32 sides, and make sure again it doesn't have a Y rotation. And I will center it here onto our x-axis and drag it all the way here to our front side. And let me just eyeball it here so that it's really at the top of that element. Let me just double check that we have it right. And let me change that radius to 0.65, a little smaller. I'm gonna align it here with our rear side in the front orthographic view. And we don't need those height segments, so let's just get rid of them. I'm gonna actually detach that block that we have here so that we can really focus on that front side element only here. Gonna take it into the isolation mode. Take these vertices and bring it in a little bit more. Let me take these two verts up a bit. And now I also want to get rid of these edges that we actually don't need. So I'm just going to press backspace on it, leaving us still with these vertices there at the bottom. But these ones here we can just get rid of. So as a next thing, I will collapse our cylinder to an editable poly and then use our slice plane and snap it here to that block. Also on that side, and give it a slice on both of these sides. And now I'm going to use our Proboline as a union and attach it onto that element here. So now it's really just a matter of checking that we don't have any extroverts, which we have here. So I'm just going to get rid of it. And now we can take these faces, grow the selection and delete it, and then just cap it. So that's an elegant way of welding that together in record time. And obviously the work is not done quite yet. So what we need to do is take these faces and I'm going to give it an inset. First of all, around here. And I'm going to delete the inner faces on both sides. Now let me make an edge selection here on that inner ring and drag some geometry out of it, some fresh geo, and I'm going to connect it here with these front verts and then just weld it all together, 0.01. And let me switch back here to our barrel, where now that edge needs to be snapped back onto that vertex here and also on the other side. And let me switch over here to left orthographic view and pull out that reference image. Next I want to be working on that shape that we see there. So I'm going to have another edge connection here. Bring it down to where that would start, as seen on that ref image. And while being here in the front perspective, I'm gonna use our slice tool to get some edges into place. First of all, right here in the center, gonna slice it there, and then I'm gonna snap it here onto that vertex. And I will just get rid of the right side so we can use the symmetry modifier. Gonna add some extra edge loop here in the inside. And let me just get rid of that edge that we were just having there from that cut, which we don't need there on the top. Let me take these faces and just get rid of them, delete them. And now we can go back here to our edge mode. First of all, I'm just gonna get rid of some edges that we don't need with backspace. And now just bring down some extra geometry and snap it here into the bottom part. Again, let me get rid of some edges here that just add to our poly count. So let's just press backspace on it. Let's add another edge loop here that we can then bring up on the z-axis. Have it around there, and I also want to bridge these two edges here together after I got rid of these vertices that we still had there. Let's see what it looks like. And we still have to add this element to it. So first of all, what that means is that I need to put another edge here into place, as well as one here in the center. And then on the y-axis, I'm just going to bring that in. And now, while being in the left orthographic view, we can just create a cylinder. 24 sides should be fine. Reposition it a bit here. I want it so that it really just pops out there together with that bevel that we have here. So just inset and drag it out a bit. And let me get rid of these edge loops here that we don't want. Actually, I'm going to put that here to 0. And then just use our symmetry modifier to put it on the other side as well. And that leaves us with exactly that element that we just had a look at the reference image. And I'm gonna select all these faces here and then just deselect the ones that we want to keep, which are here at the front. And I'm gonna delete the rest because we will never see them. Going to scale that up a bit here on both sides and bring it in a bit here on the x-axis. Let's give that here individual smoothing groups, these segments. And other than that, we can leave that element as it is. Let's continue to work on that action. And let me start with some edge optimization here. I'm gonna get rid of this edge loop there. Just leave it here on the side and connect some vertices back to it. And also, I don't really want to have these edges, so I'm just going to get rid of them as well. Same here at the bottom. Just going to clean it up a bit, and I'm going to use the cut tool to add an extra edge over there, which we will need in just a bit when we bend the whole thing a little bit to the side. Some more vertex connection here on the front side as well. And that is another case here of edges that we don't need, so I'm gonna get rid of it. And now it's time to bend the whole thing over here to the right side. So I'm gonna make a face selection here but I don't want to be moving the wrong faces. So I'm gonna get rid of the selection for the inside. And that just leaves us here with the actual outside faces and the ones on the left. So now with the FDD2 modifier, we can move the whole thing smoothly over here based on that reference image, and then just collapse the FDD modifier to it. So now we're almost getting there with our shape here for the front side. But as seen here on that reference image, we have to cut some faces off here. So I'm gonna take these 4 faces here seen from the front and just get rid of them. And I want to cap this hole that we have there, as well as getting rid of that edge loop that we don't need. Make some vertex connection here, and then just make it nice and round there. Another look here at the reference image. And what I want to do is just drag it on the y-axis before I'm going to do some chamfering. So already make use of the geometry that we have there and just give it that nice curve. And on these edges, I'm going to use the flow connect. And that gives us really a nice shape there. And I want to do the same thing here on that side. Bring it over to the right side. Use some flow connect. Or actually first give it a chamfer here. And on these 2 edges, some flow connect. And as for that edge, I'm going to continue to work on that shape that we see there on the background, because we have to cut another hole in it. I'm going to use the inset here on that face, scale it on the x-axis, put it properly into place, and then with these vertices, I'm just gonna chamfer it. And some more here, double chamfer, which produces some odd geometry for us to clean up. But most importantly, we have that shape already worked out. So now it's just a matter of getting rid of some of these edges and reconnecting these vertices as usual. And also here at the bottom. And that leaves us here with that hole that we still need to drag some edges out. Gonna take these edges, put them to 0. Give them an auto smooth so that it's all one smoothing group there in the inside. And we still have some work left to do. Back here to that element, I'm gonna add an edge, align it horizontally and drag it up there with the edge constraint. Symmetry modifier, and I'm gonna collapse it. So now we can use the inset again. Connect these vertices with a cut tool. Bring them up a bit here with the edge constraint so that it's pretty much in the center. And then I'm gonna use another inset on it. Subtle amount. And then we shouldn't be in the edge constraint mode. And while being here in the local mode, I'm gonna push it in here on the z-axis. I'm gonna take these edges and give them a chamfer so that it nicely tapers in or out on the end of this element. And let me just weld everything, Ctrl A and 0.01 weld threshold, and give these faces there in the inside one smoothing group. Gonna give it a slight push here on that center, and that's pretty much that front side. We should still add some of these elements that we already created earlier, as seen on the reference image. So let's just position it properly here. And the only difference is that this element should pop out. So I'm gonna select these faces and align them so that they are flat. And now I'm gonna take the center pieces and push them out a bit on the Z-axis. Same as that edge loop here. And this is how we can quickly recreate geometry that we already have without a whole lot of effort. Gonna copy it over here, and then as usual I'm gonna take it and with shift pressed copy it over to the other side and just give it a rotation of 180 degrees. Let me continue by attaching our front side back together as it belongs and also weld it together. But now I'm gonna take it and actually detach it as one piece because there's still some work left on it, which I forgot. So I'm gonna have only one side here of it and then take these faces, extrude it out, put the extrusion amount to 0 and then just drag it out on the Z-axis, flatten it at the bottom and add another edge connection there and put it into place. Gonna have that edge loop somewhere over there and then just bring it in here a little bit on the x-axis. Add some extra edge connection just to have it nice and round there. Take that face and push it out a bit. And that piece here is a little bit more beveled there. It actually pops out a bit. So I'm gonna add an extra edge loop here. Take these faces and then just extrude it again in our local normal mode. Bring it down all the way and give it a reasonable amount here. Don't need to have these edges, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. And back to that piece. I will drag it a bit here to the right side, as seen on that reference image. Connect these vertices there and just continue dragging it a little bit to the right side so that we already get a bit of that curve going there. And let's give that a chamfer here. Let's be generous and give it a double chamfer, and the same here on that side. Flip it with our symmetry modifier. And let's add another cylinder, because the one thing that we still have to do is add that needle to our front side. So I'm gonna take that cylinder here on our 0x coordinates, right in the center of that front side. And let's adjust these parameters here. Obviously the height is a little too extreme, so I'm gonna bring it down. And I'm gonna give it an inset and another one so that we can pop it out a bit. As you can see, it already tapers in there a little bit to the top so that we have a bit of that bevel there. And we may not need it with such a radius, so I'm gonna scale it a bit more here. Apply one smoothing group there to that segment. and bring these edges down a bit. Let me have a look here through our actual perspective as we would see it when we look through it. And that reveals that we could just bring it down a bit more. And let me have a look around here. I'm gonna actually delete that piece that we had there at the front. Instead, I'm gonna attach that front side back to our barrel here and have another look around here. Get rid of some of the edges that just add to our poly count, such as these here. Let's make sure we don't delete any edges that we actually need, but these ones here we can get rid of. Control and backspace. And let me also already paste the chamfer and turbo smooth on that thing. Make sure we don't have any weird occurrences. Let me put the back face color on, and now I'm just gonna cap that hole that we got there. Delete these edges and then take that face and detach it as a clone. I'm gonna select it and drag it here over to the right side where our muzzle brake starts, around here. And I will then take these edges and drag them out here with some fresh geometry and snap them back into place here. For the moment, I think I want to keep the muzzle brake a separate element, and I will continue by putting some edges into place here so that we can work here on these bevel elements that go in the inside. And I will just take that edge loop and chamfer it so that we get a double edge there, and then add an edge in the inside which we can scale down and give another chamfer to. So that gives us already that shape. Just gonna scale it a bit here on the x-axis. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here where we also have such an element. I'm just gonna scale it down a bit here on the front. And then continue here by doing the same thing that we just did on the left side. Scale that edge down and give it a chamfer. Bring it down a little bit more. And I'm going to select these front verts, scale them also a bit more. Take that front face and extrude some more geometry out here. A slight amount. And also bring it down a bit. Taper it in there so that it does that little bevel there. And I'm gonna take that front face and also detach it as a clone. And you will see why exactly in a moment. We're gonna do some Boolean action on it. For now, I already positioned some more edges here, as well as connecting these verts together. And I'm gonna have a face selection only here at the front, so that our slice tool, which we're gonna use now and snap to that vertex, will only affect that region. So now if you press Alt and click that upper arrow on the X coordinate down there, you can make a very subtle movement on that rotation, and that puts our slice perfectly into place here. So now we just have to go back into our left orthographic view and just delete the faces that we don't want to have. Delete, and make sure that those vertices here are actually welded together. And now I'm just going to cap it and connect some more vertices here. And I'm going to use the FDD modifier here on that element to already give it a bit of a curve here. Add another edge connection here and bring that curve further in. And I will give all these faces here one smoothing group. And now I'm going back to that piece that we copied out earlier, scale it down a bit, drag some more geometry out so that we can use it as a Boolean element in just a moment. Let's just make sure that it's perfectly fitting here. And I already want to put some more edges into place here, exactly lined up to where we have it on the muzzle brake. So I'm going to have one here. And that just makes it easier once we perform the Boolean operation to weld these things back together as they belong. And right now, if you look at the reference image, I want this to pop out a bit there once we subtract it from our geometry. That's why I had to make that extra bevel there. And I'm gonna scale it up a bit here at the end. Scale it up and bring it to the left. And in order to get that edge lined up there, I'm gonna slice it here on that element. Snap the slice plane right there to that edge loop where we already have it, and then just delete the one that we had there in the middle that we don't want to have. So now we can take that, use our Pro Boolean, same as usual, remove only invisible, and we are in subtraction mode. And now we have that. So now we have exactly the kind of look that we see on the reference image. And I will then just clean up some geometry here. Make some vertex connections. And also I want to give the whole element here a slice in the middle, so that we only have to do that work once on the left side. Some more vertex connections. And that can be target welded. And this vertex, let's connect it over here. And this one, we're just gonna get rid of it. Control backspace. Still some extra verts that happened during the Boolean operation. So we just have to make sure we clean everything up properly here. Connect these vertices. And let's see what it looks like. I will already add that piece there in the inside to it. And for that I'm going to delete that face here that I just selected on the front side. And then back to our muzzle brake, I'm going to use the inside edges and give them a bit of a twist to add that inner barrel element to it. Let's have a look at the reference, what's next. And that would also be the last thing. I want to add that little sticking out element here at the front side to it. Gonna make use of our floater that we created earlier and position it here, scale it up a bit. And let's also switch over to editable poly on it. Take that front face, detach it as a clone, and just drag it out here and drag some more geometry out of it. So that guarantees us that it's already perfectly into place. And we can then just auto smooth it, copy that turbo smooth and chamfer back on. And that gets the job done. I'm also gonna copy and paste it here onto our muzzle brake, and that looks a little bit too hard edged. So I'm gonna use our amount here and make it a little wider. And other than that, that's it for our 4th chapter. So in the next chapter, we will then have a look around and see whatever is left on our list. Probably also some more detail work on it, on our high poly. And that's it for now. I'll be seeing you in the next chapter.